Now, let's take a look at US stocks because they recovered from big falls earlier in the trading session. They're both up by over 1%, and that's really as investors bet that back and forth tariff threats that we saw over the last few days between the US and China will not lead to a bigger trade dispute, because it really just took Beijing 11 hours to respond to the Trump administration's latest list of products that it plans to hit with a 25% tariff. China says it plans to impose additional tariffs on 106 US products, including soybeans, cars, and orange juice. So is there a way a trade war can be avoided? Well, joining me now from the US state of Oregon is international negotiator Martin Medeiros. Welcome to the program, Martin. As we saw there, a recovery in the markets, because many are now saying actually it's not so much a trade war, it's more of a trade negotiation, despite all of these public threats we're seeing between the two. So as an international negotiator yourself, what do you actually see coming out of all of this?
I think you're absolutely right. It is a negotiation, and I think the parties will make concessions. And for the first time in a long time, I think the American administration understands the game that's being played here. And I don't think that was true for a very long time. So they're playing the same game. We need them, of course, to buy our debt. They need us for market access. And right now, if things do not take an unintended turn, I think this is a precursor to some negotiations that will get China on a path it's already on, which is to modernize and have a robust set of intellectual property laws. Right. And I think that's where we are right now, and I think that's the end game.
Right. Martin, you say that the Americans are finally playing the same game as China plays. Would you say, though, that this is a rather dangerous game because the ramifications of a potential trade war happening are huge?
Well, I think you're right, because you look at what happens when we go into a negotiation. We like to think we're using objective evidence, and we try to base that. And there's all types of methods, game theory, and these other disciplines that help us get to that objective result. But the one thing that we don't count on is irrational human behavior. And sometimes humans will act against their own interests. And that's something that's very hard to predict.
Right. And very quickly, though, a lot of analysts, a lot of experts are saying actually the US is likely to be hurt more if a trade war does happen.
I think, right now you look at the situation. We have a tax cut. That means deficits are projected to grow. We need someone to buy our treasury debt. And right now, in that sense, perhaps, but in order to buy that debt, there has to be revenue. So market access revenue is something I think China wants to see. I don't think they're going to come away from this unscathed. I think both parties are playing a dangerous game. I just think this is a prelude to a negotiated settlement of some sort.
All right, we'll be covering that very closely. Thank you for joining us, Martin Medeiros there.